Good evening everyone, Nibbler here again. Tonight I want to compare three peated whiskies. I'm a bit of a fan of peated whiskies. In fact, most of the whiskies on this shelf here come from the islands of Islay or Skye, places where they love putting peat in their whisky. These, most of them are what are called blended malt whiskies or vatted malt. This one's called Big Peat. This one's called the Peat Monster. And this one's called Peat's Beast. So they're all plays on the label about peat. I'm going to try firstly the Big Peat. Now Big Peat is an Islay blended malt Scotch whisky, or sometimes called vatted. This has supposedly got Ardbeg, Cale Isle, Bowmore and Port Ellen whisky. It won't have much Port Ellen whisky, I can tell you, because Port Ellen hasn't been in operation for over 20 years. So there might be a thimbleful in it. I reckon there's a lot of Ardbeg in there because it's really pale. It's paler than pale straw. It's very pale, and if you've had any experience with Ardbeg whiskies, they don't have much colour at all. But the peat is there. For Big Peat, it doesn't actually come on as big, but certainly there are notes. I'm going to refer to my notes here a bit because to remember for three whiskies is a bit hard. But and there's the saltiness, which is often a part of the Islay peated whiskies. Yeah, well, that's got peat in it. There's no doubt about it. And yet, it's in balance with whatever else is in there. Some peated whiskies, that's all they present, just the peat. And the peat's so strong you lose the other stuff that's in behind, like the saltiness and the fruitiness that's in this. And sure, there's the peated stuff like the tar and the notes of like a barbecue. But this is a nicely balanced whisky. So although it goes by the label Big Peat, it's not exactly big, but for the price, it's really handy. So that's made by Douglas Lang and Company, who are Glasgow based. And there's a cartoon character on the front who's a bearded Iliac, which is probably the name for someone who lives on Islay. Now this next whisky, the Peat Monster, is made by the Compass Box. And I'm pretty sure I reviewed a Compass Box whisky not so long back called the Spaniard. This one, again, is a blended malt whisky. It's said that there are 100% single malt whiskies which do include Ardbeg and Cale Isle between 10 and 15 years. So the nose on that isn't as strongly peated as Big Peat. In fact, it's probably a bit hard to detect the peat. But certainly there on the flavour. And once again, it's nicely in balance with some other stuff that's going on there, like some tea flavours, bit of fruit peel, like orange peel, and toast. I like toast for breakfast in the morning, and there's certainly a hint of that in there. Once again, a really nicely balanced whiskey. A monster? Well, I might say it's a monster, but in my estimation, it's not monstrously peated, just nicely balanced. And then this one I bought recently called Peat's Beast. It has some weird looking painting on there of a beast that's made of barrels and teeth and hair, and this is advertised as a single malt Scotch whisky, an unnamed distillery, probably from Speyside, I think it says, yep. And the colour's like a nice Chardonnay, bright straw colour. And the peat and smoke certainly there on the nose. I've got a drinking problem, it dribbles out of my mouth. It's young, whereas these show evidence of age. This is quite aggressive. Not badly so, but it's definitely younger than these two. So of the three of them, I would say this one is probably the beastier, if that's such a word, or bestial, I suppose it is, of the three of them. I like Big Peat. I like the Peat Monster. This one, I'll have to work a while at learning to love it, which doesn't seem to be much of a problem. If you see any of these three on the shelf, particularly the Big Peat and the Peat Monster, I'd recommend seriously that you try them. Buy them and try them. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Cheers.